All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about vibe coding.
Vibe coding.
Vibe coding. It's
Yeah.
and I think the best way to describe this to our audience is
Yeah.
it's like imagine using just regular everyday language like how you and I are talking right
All
now
right.
to tell artificial intelligence what you want a piece of software to do.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah.
the artificial intelligence actually writes the code for you.
Yeah, that's it.
That's vibe coding.
Yep.
And we
Great.
have a bunch of different sources here that we're going to be taking a look at today,
Yeah, we have a good YouTube post plan
right?
that goes through step by step, like how to build $1 million AI development agency
Yeah.
using vibe coding, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And then we also have a very thorough written explanation of it.
Right.
And then we have another overview piece that reinforces kind of those core ideas, but then also raises some really thought-provoking questions
Right.
about what it all means.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, vibe coding is really a shortcut for us to kind of try to get our heads around a pretty significant shift in technology that's coming and probably already here.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation.
Yeah. So we're going to pull out the most important stuff about vibe coding from these sources
Yeah.
and hopefully explain it to you, the listener, in a way that you can understand it,
Yeah.
what it is, what are the business opportunities,
Yeah.
what are some things to look out for, considerations,
Right.
all that kind of stuff.
Yep. And without all the crazy jargon.
Without all the crazy jargon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So, first of all,
Yeah.
what is vibe coding?
So, like you said, it's basically using AI
Yeah.
to write code for you. But the AI that we're talking about here are
Right.
these things called large language models,
Wow.
right? These are like AI that have gotten really good at understanding, generating human-like text. So that means that they're actually pretty good
Yeah.
at understanding what you want the code to do.
Right. Right.
So instead of having to like learn all the different coding languages
all right.
and syntax and all this other stuff,
yeah.
you basically just give the AI instructions in
Right.
plain English.
Uh-huh.
And
Like Star Trek.
yeah, it kind of is like Star Trek. It's like, computer, make it so.
Your computer, make a cup of tea Earl Grey hot.
Exactly, exactly. And it's able to translate these vibes, these prompts that you're giving it
Yeah.
into a functional code.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a lot more accessible
Yeah,
to a lot more people.
absolutely.
You don't have to go and get a computer science degree for 4 years and,
Yeah.
And then become a programmer for 5 years.
Right.
You could just be like, I'd like to make this app that does this, and boom, the AI spits out the code.
And one of the really amazing things about this is that it's starting to become really popular, right?
Yeah.
There was this statistic that we saw from Replit, which is one of the platforms that offers vibe coding, right?
Yeah?
They found that 75% of their users
Wow.
are non-coders.
That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? So that means that 3 out of every 4 people using their platform to build software
Right.
are not traditional coders.
Right.
And this is because Replit, they have this AI-powered coding assistant called Ghostwriter,
Right.
and that's built directly into their development environment. So
Yeah.
it makes it so much easier to take those natural language prompts and turn it into code.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what vibe coding is, but when we talk about like the characteristics of it,
Yeah.
the key features,
Mm,
what
yeah.
are we actually talking about?
So there's a few key features here. First of all, like you said, it's prompt-driven development. So you're giving the AI instructions using natural language, plain English,
Yeah.
and it's taking that and turning it into code, right?
Right.
The second thing is it's an iterative process.
Uh-huh.
So you don't just tell the AI what you want and it spits out a perfectly finished product, right?
Right.
You have to test it out.
Yeah.
You have to refine your instructions, maybe even tweak the code a little bit manually to
Right.
get exactly what you want.
Right, because natural language is not always...
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
ambiguous.
Yeah, ambiguous. Yeah, exactly.
The AI might not always understand exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to work with it a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
It's
not like,
collaboration.
yeah, it's not like a magic bullet. Make it so.
It's not just magic, yeah.
Yeah.
But the third thing, and we've already touched on this, is the accessibility.
Right.
You don't need to have a background in coding
Right.
to be able to use this technology.
Yeah, yeah. And build things, which is really, really exciting.
Yeah, so, I mean, this sounds like,
Yeah.
we talked about Replit.
Mm.
There's also the potential for new businesses to spring up,
Yeah, absolutely.
around this.
Right.
One of the sources we looked at actually focuses specifically
Yeah.
on creating something called a vibe coding agency.
Vibe coding agency, yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about what that is.
So basically, it's taking this whole idea of vibe coding and turning it into a business, right?
Right.
The YouTube post plan that we saw outlines a way to build like $1 million agency using this.
Okay.
And there's some pretty compelling numbers that suggest that this could actually be a really big opportunity.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah, so there's they estimated that there could be like 2.3 billion pounds in tech salary savings.
Wow.
In the UK alone, just from using this technology.
Right.
And then there's a company called Menlo Park Lab, and they got a $10 million valuation just by using AI-generated code.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so those are some pretty huge number that suggest that people are really taking this seriously.
Yeah, so let's say somebody out there is listening.
Yeah.
And they want to create a vibe coding agency.
Right.
Like, what are some of the first steps?
So the first step, and this is really important, is you got to define your niche. Don't try to be everything to everyone, right? Figure out what industry or what type of problem vibe coding is really good at solving.
Okay.
And focus on that.
Okay, so pick an industry, find your niche.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and then what's the next step?
The next step is you got to set up your AI tools.
Right.
The sources talk a lot about Replit, especially their Ghostwriter feature and OpenAI API.
Okay.
These are going to be your bread and butter.
So you're going to be using these tools to basically tell the AI what to do.
Yeah, and they make it really easy to start experimenting and prototyping different applications.
Got it. So you've got your niche, you've got your tools.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, how do you start actually providing value to customers?
So you want to start small.
Okay.
Start with manageable projects.
Yeah.
Things like automating simple tasks.
Oh, okay.
Building basic websites.
Okay. Nice. Easy stuff.
Yeah. Stuff that you can wrap your head around and really get a feel for how the AI works.
Okay. So start with the easy stuff. And then after that, where do you go?
Okay. So this is where developing really clear prompts becomes super important.
Yep.
The quality of the code that you get from the AI depends on how good your instructions are.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, instead of just saying build a login system, you want to be more specific.
Yeah.
You want to say something like create a login form with email and password fields that validates the email format.
Right.
Very specific.
So you got to be very clear with the AI.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like if you were giving instructions to a human developer.
Right. So, okay, the AI generates some code based on your clear prompt.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
Well, you got to test it out. You got to make sure it works.
Yeah.
And you might need to refine your prompts.
Right.
Maybe even tweak the code yourself a little bit.
Okay.
To get it exactly right.
And then as you get better at it, you can start to expand, right?
Exactly. So once you've gotten the hang of the basics, you can start adding more complex features. Things like API integrations, more advanced UI design.
Okay, so this is how you start scaling out.
Right.
Okay.
And the sources also mentioned that you could even offer consulting services.
Yeah, okay.
Help other businesses figure out how to use vibe coding themselves or build custom AI-powered solutions for them.
Right.
So it's not just about writing code, it's also about the expertise that you bring to the table.
Yeah, okay. So we talked about some of the, the ways that you would start a vibe coding agency. But I mean, business is all about making money.
Right.
So what are some of the business models that people are actually using?
So there's a few different ways you could go with this.
Okay.
The most obvious one is custom development services.
Okay.
So you're using vibe coding to build software specifically for your clients.
Right.
You can also offer recurring revenue by providing things like hosting maintenance, ongoing updates for the applications that you build.
Okay, so keep them on retainer.
Right, keep them on retainer.
Right.
Another really interesting model is prototyping as a service.
Yeah.
This is perfect for startups or businesses that just need to quickly test an idea and see if it works.
Yeah.
And the sources actually mention that there are freelancers out there making like $50,000 a month.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Just by doing rapid prototyping.
Yeah, just by doing rapid prototyping.
Wow.
And then finally, you could offer outsourced development support to larger companies that need help speeding up their projects.
Okay, so there's lots of different ways to make money.
Yeah, lots of different ways to make money.
Using these tools.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, of course, any new technology has its challenges and its drawbacks. So what are some of the things that we need to be thinking about?
So yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There are some potential pitfalls.
Yeah.
One of the biggest concerns is code quality and security.
Right.
Since the AI is learning from massive amounts of data, some of which might not be perfect.
Right.
The code it generates could potentially have problems. So you got to be really careful.
Yeah, so a human still needs to check the work.
Absolutely. You can't just trust the AI blindly.
Right.
And there's this really scary statistic
no.
about cloud cost spikes. Apparently, some companies have seen their cloud costs jump up by 42%.
Wow, that's a lot.
Because of unoptimized AI code.
So the code is inefficient.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's costing them more money.
Yeah, and money talks.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big problem.
Yeah. What else? What else do we need to be thinking about?
So another thing is that right now, vibe coding isn't really suitable for super complex projects, things that require like really intricate architecture or super high reliability. It's just not there yet.
So for really complicated stuff, you still need a human.
Yeah, you still need human experts.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the most important takeaway here is that human oversight is still absolutely critical.
Right.
Even though the AI is writing the code,
you
need humans to guide it, to refine its output, to make sure that it's actually meeting the goals.
It's like a partnership.
Exactly. It's a partnership between human and AI. It's not about replacing humans altogether.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not like Terminator 2.
No, not yet, at least.
Not yet, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, it's all well and good to talk about this stuff theoretically.
All right.
But are there any real-world examples of vibe coding in action?
Yeah, there are actually quite a few.
Okay.
So we already talked about Replit, right? And how 75% of their users are non-coders.
Right.
That's a great example of how this technology is empowering people to build software. Then there's Menlo Park Lab.
Right.
They're using vibe coding to create these cool products like Brainy Docs.
Brainy Docs, okay.
Which basically takes complex PDF documents and turns them into explainer videos.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That is neat.
Yeah, so that's a good example of using vibe coding for something really innovative.
Right.
And then you have all these freelancers on Upwork making a killing by using vibe coding to rapidly prototype solutions for clients.
Yeah.
And there was even this really cool story about a neurodivergent freelancer who's earning like $30,000 a month.
Wow.
Just by using the accessibility features of Cursor IDE, which, includes AI coding assistance.
Right.
So, yeah, there are definitely real-world examples of this happening.
Yeah, so this is real.
It's real.
It's not just a bunch of, tech hype.
It's not just hype.
This is actually happening.
It's happening.
Yeah, okay. So this is all very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
So what are some of the questions that we as a society need to be thinking about?
So there's some really big questions here.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ones is what's going to happen to traditional software developers?
Right, yeah. What's their role going to be?
Yeah, are they going to become more like prompt engineers, experts at instructing the AI? Or are they going to focus on more high-level stuff?
Yeah.
Like system design?
Right.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's a huge question.
And then how is this technology going to change industries that have traditionally had a hard time getting into software development?
Yeah.
Like think about nonprofits or small businesses that don't have a lot of resources.
Yeah. It could really level the playing field, couldn't it?
It really could. It could democratize software development in a way that we've never seen before.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? What else? Keep going. Keep going.
So could vibe coding lead to a surge in innovation?
Okay.
Right? Like if more people can build software, will we see more new ideas and more creative solutions?
Yeah, it's like lowering the barrier to entry, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's the whole issue of cloud costs.
Right.
We talked about how unoptimized AI code can lead to huge spikes. Yeah.
So how can vibe coding agencies make sure that they're producing efficient code?
Right.
That's not going to break the bank for their clients.
Yeah. That's a huge consideration, especially for small businesses.
Huge consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
And then finally, how should education adapt to all this? Should we still be teaching kids how to code in the traditional way?
Yeah.
Or should we be focusing more on things like problem-solving skills, logical thinking, the ability to communicate clearly with AI?
So it's like you need to teach them to be the prompt engineer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are a lot of really big questions here.
Yeah, so vibe coding isn't just a new way of making software. It's almost like a new way of thinking about...
paradigm shift.
Yeah, about how we interact with computers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so to wrap things up, what's the main thing that we want listeners to take away? So the main takeaway is that vibe coding is a huge step forward.
Yeah.
It's going to make software development way more accessible. It's going to create some amazing business opportunities.
Right.
But it's not a magic solution.
Right.
You still need to be careful about code quality, about security.
Yep.
And you still need human expertise in the development process.
Yeah. It's not a replacement for humans. It's more like...
It's an
augmentation of human capability.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I hope that everybody listening out there has found this interesting.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And I'd like to leave you with this.
Yeah.
Think about this.
Okay.
Could this be something that changes the way you work?
Yeah. Think about your own field.
Yeah, your own field.
Your own interests.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you very much for listening to The Deep Dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time. You know, it really makes you wonder if the ability to translate ideas directly into code without having to learn all that complicated stuff, could it actually change?
Yeah.
Not just how we build technology, but what we can even imagine.
Wow.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
See ya.